She turned me into a public failure, burned through everything I worked my whole life for, then left. One message. Check again, sweetheart. I opened my email and uncovered a secret. Even the FBI couldn't ignore. I swear to God, I didn't even realize I was homeless until my keycard beeped red in front of my own damn condo. Yeah, my condo. The one I worked 16-hour days to afford. The one with the skyline view of Chicago that I used to sit and stare at while convincing myself this nightmare relationship was just a rough patch. But by then, it wasn't a rough patch. It was a goddamn eviction notice dressed in designer heels and $1,000 perfume. Let me back up a bit before I spiral. My name's Ethan, 32, a marketing strategist for a tech firm downtown. Pretty normal guy. Or at least I was before I met Lila. Lila, she was like walking straight into a hurricane wearing a paper raincoat. Beautiful, beyond words. The kind of woman who didn't enter a room. She owned it. Instagram famous, hundreds of thousands of followers who ate up every perfectly filtered post she made. But what they didn't see, what I refused to see, was how deep that filter really went. I met her at a startup summit last year. She was sitting at the edge of the rooftop bar, laughing at something on her phone, long black hair catching the wind just right. She told me she was a freelance business consultant, which looking back was just a fancy way of saying she hadn't held down a real job in over 3 years. But in that moment, God, I was hooked. She made me feel like I was the only person who ever really got her. Within 2 months, she'd moved into my new condo. Not officially, of course. Just staying over so much that her designer clothes filled my walk-in closet and my minimalist kitchen started looking like a damn skincare aisle at Sephora. And then, the paperwork started. Babe, can you just sign this real quick? It's for that real estate investment project we talked about. She'd purr, sliding glossy documents across the marble countertop like it was just some casual weekend plan. I was exhausted from work. Half the time I didn't even read them. Stupid, I know. But when someone looks you dead in the eyes and says, "It's just so we can plan our future together," you don't exactly assume they're lining up their escape route. Fast forward to last week, I'd just wrapped a brutal campaign pitch. The kind where you don't sleep for 3 days straight and your entire career feels like it's hanging by a thread. All I wanted was to collapse on my couch, order some trashy takeout, and pretend my life wasn't falling apart. But when I got to the building, my keycard didn't work. Beep. Red light. Again. Beep. Red. I called the front desk confused, and the poor guy couldn't even look me in the eye. "Mr. Carter, I'm sorry, but, your lease was transferred last week. You're no longer on record as the primary tenant." My heart literally stopped. I felt like someone had ripped the ground out from under me. How the hell does my own lease get transferred without me knowing? I ran upstairs, completely panicked. When the elevator opened, the hallway smelled different. New. Like someone had sprayed one of those sickeningly sweet luxury room fragrances all over the place. I pounded on the door. No answer. When the building manager finally unlocked it for me, the place was empty. Not just she took her things and left. Empty. Everything was gone. My custom Italian leather couch, the minimalist glass coffee table I'd saved months to buy, my 75-inch OLED TV, even the espresso machine I hadn't even unpacked yet. All that remained was a single card sitting dead center on the marble kitchen counter, black embossed with gold lettering. "You wanted freedom? Congratulations, you're free." My hands were shaking. I wanted to scream. "Call her. Hunt her down." But you know what really broke me? When I opened the closet and realized she even took the cufflinks my dad left me before he passed. I sat there, in the middle of that cold, empty condo, wondering how the hell I didn't see this coming. And then, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. One text. "Check the mail, sweetheart. You're gonna love this one." I swear my stomach hit the floor, because I knew whatever was waiting in that mailbox wasn't some heartfelt apology. I threw on my jacket and sprinted downstairs. My hands fumbled with the mailbox key, palms sweaty despite the freezing air. Inside was a single, thick envelope. From a law firm. And just as I stood there, numb, trying to figure out if I was about to lose more than just my apartment, my phone buzzed again. Another message. "Don't worry, baby. I left you something even better than a memory." I turned around, and for just a split second, standing across the street, hidden behind the tinted windows of a sleek black Tesla, I swear I saw her watching me, smiling. I don't remember walking back to my condo. Hell, I'm not even sure I was breathing right. That envelope felt radioactive in my hands. Thick, heavy, like it had weight far beyond the paper inside. And every second it sat there unopened was another second my life kept circling the drain. But I couldn't bring myself to open it. Not there. Not standing under the cold, flickering lobby light with the building concierge glancing over like he already knew I was living my own personal tragedy in real time. So, I did what every emotionally wrecked idiot does. I dragged myself back upstairs to my empty apartment. Correction? Her apartment now. The air inside felt colder than outside. Bare walls, hardwood floors echoing every exhausted footstep. My life, gone. Just like that. And then I sat down right where my couch used to be, staring at the envelope like it might actually explode. My mind raced. Credit fraud? Lawsuit? Some insane prenup I didn't even remember signing? My hands trembled as I broke the seal. Inside, a set of perfectly prepared legal documents. Transfer of property ownership, 50% stake. I read it once, then again. And when the realization hit, I swear it felt like someone poured concrete down my throat. Buried beneath my exhaustion, my stupidity finally surfaced. Those investment papers Lila had me signing months ago? They weren't for some fake real estate startup. They were real. She'd transferred half the ownership of my $1.2 million condo into her name. Legally, on paper. And the worst part? I had signed it all willingly. Like a complete trusting fool. At that moment, something inside me snapped. I stood up, grabbed my phone, and called her. Straight to voicemail. Again. And again. On the fourth try, she answered. "Well, that was faster than I expected," she said. Calm, amused. "Lila, what the hell did you do?" I could barely get the words out. She laughed. Actually laughed. "Relax, Ethan. You've always said you wanted me to have more stability. You just didn't know you'd be the one gifting it to me." I was pacing circles around the empty living room, my heart pounding so hard it felt like it'd tear through my chest. "You're out of your mind if you think this is over." "Oh, honey." Her voice went cold. "This has been over. You just didn't have the guts to admit it." The line went dead. That's when I noticed something. A small stack of unopened letters on the kitchen island. I hadn't seen them before. With shaking hands, I flipped through them. One was from my bank. Notice of joint account withdrawal. $68,000, my entire savings. Gone. I stumbled back, hit the kitchen counter, and just stood there, staring at that number like it couldn't possibly be real. She hadn't just taken my furniture. She hadn't just hijacked my condo. She'd cleaned me out. Completely. My phone buzzed again. One new notification. Instagram Live, Lila said. So is going live now, curiosity, or maybe pure self-destruction took over. I clicked it. There she was, sitting on a yacht deck, wearing the exact Cartier bracelet I'd bought her for her birthday. "New chapter, new me," she sang to the camera, champagne in hand, that disgusting influencer voice dialed to max volume. "Ladies, let me introduce you to the official launch of my new brand, Unchained. For all the women who refuse to be held back by anyone or anything." I felt like I was going to throw up. This wasn't just a breakup. This wasn't even about money anymore. She had planned every second of this. While I was breaking my back trying to build a future for us, she was building her exit plan and using my name, my resources, and my kindness to finance it. And as if that wasn't enough. The camera panned slightly, and I froze. There, standing next to her, grinning like he'd just won the damn lottery, was my boss. The same man who just regretfully informed me last week that the company was going through layoffs and my position might be at risk. That son of a... My phone slipped out of my hand and hit the floor. Everything started clicking into place. The sudden layoff rumors, the weird closed-door meetings, the friend who kept checking in on me at work, asking casual questions about my financials, my living situation, if I had a backup plan. They weren't just connected. They'd been playing me together. And then, like the universe wasn't done screwing me, there was a knock at the door. Not a friendly knock. No, this was the kind that makes your blood run cold. When I opened it, a man in a tailored suit stood there, briefcase in hand. "Mr. Carter?" I nodded, completely numb. He opened the case and pulled out a set of fresh documents. "Consider this your official notice. Ms. Lila Morgan is exercising her legal right to sell her half of the condo. Effective immediately." "Sell it to who?" I croaked. The man gave a faint, practiced smile. "To herself, Mr. Carter, in full." I think this was the first time in my life I truly understood what helpless felt like. Standing in that empty condo, some corporate vulture in a $1,000 suit handing me papers that officially erased my name from the only place I'd called home in years. And the worst part? I signed the damn thing. Don't ask me why. Maybe it was the shock. Maybe it was the kind of exhaustion that settles into your bones after life kicks you in the teeth one too many times. Or maybe I just wanted it over. But as I scrawled my signature across those perfectly typed pages, something inside me snapped. This wasn't just a breakup. This wasn't just bad luck. This was war. The next morning, I did what I should have done weeks ago. I started digging. Lila had blocked me on every platform, but public records? Those are a different story. And guess what? In less than 24 hours, Ms. Unchained and Independent had filed an LLC for her new fashion brand. Guess whose investment capital she listed for startup funding? Mine. A full, traceable paper trail leading straight from my empty joint account to her shiny new company. But here's where it gets interesting. Buried in the LLC paperwork was a name I didn't expect to see. Matthew Crane, my boss. The same man who stood on that yacht next to her during that sickening Instagram live. The same guy who'd called me just 2 days before my keycard stopped working to say he was so sorry, but the company had to make some tough staffing decisions. They weren't just connected. They'd been planning this. Together. And I wasn't their first victim. I spent the next 48 hours digging through everything. Property transfers, financial records, even old press releases from startups that mysteriously folded after unforeseen financial difficulties. There was a pattern. Lila would swoop in with the whole power couple image, find a guy dumb enough to bankroll her lifestyle, and just before things fell apart, Matthew would conveniently offer her new business opportunities or investor connections. And every single time it ended the same way. The man left broke. She left richer. And Matthew? He somehow walked away with a stake in every failed company. It wasn't just manipulation. It was organized exploitation. I felt sick. I felt stupid. But mostly, I felt done playing the fool. Now, I'm no tech genius, but years in marketing had taught me one thing. If you want to destroy someone in the modern age, you don't need fists. You need information. And I had it. Emails, transaction records, even screenshots of that Instagram live where Matthew stood proudly next to Lila, practically announcing their little con to the world under the guise of female empowerment. But the real smoking gun? A digital trail I found tucked away in an old shared Google Drive folder Lila had forgotten to revoke my access to. Inside? Detailed financial projections, plans for the brand, and at the very bottom, a folder marked Exit Strategy. Guess what it contained? A pre-written press release titled, Empowering Through Hardship, How I Survived a Toxic Relationship and Found My Voice. It was a full victim narrative, ready to deploy the moment she needed to cover her tracks and publicly destroy me. I was going to be her final masterpiece, the villain in her viral redemption arc, but she made one mistake. She underestimated how far I'd go when I've got nothing left to lose. I spent the next week gathering everything. I built a neat little package of evidence, every transfer, every fake investment deal, even the names and stories of her previous victims, which I tracked down through Reddit and some very dark financial forums. Turns out I wasn't the only one who lost everything because of her, and that's when the real plan started. I sent the entire package, not to the police, not to some blog, but directly to a business reporter known for blowing the lid off corporate scams. I figured it'd take weeks before anything happened. But no, within 3 days it went viral. Front page headline, Chicago's power couple exposed, how a CEO and his social media queen built an empire on ruined lives. Their faces were everywhere. News channels, social media, even LinkedIn exploded with exposés and takedown posts. I sat in a dingy motel room watching her empire crumble in real time. Matthew Crane was forced to resign within 24 hours. His company's board voted him out unanimously. But Lila? She disappeared, vanished off every platform. Instagram gone, TikTok wiped, no trace of her anywhere. Until last night. I got a single, untraceable email. Subject line, congratulations. You played your part perfectly. Inside was nothing but an attached video file. I should have deleted it. I should have thrown my laptop out the window. But like the idiot I am, I opened it. And there she was. Sitting on a beach somewhere tropical, sunglasses on, that same sickeningly sweet smile stretched across her face. Don't think for a second I didn't plan for this, she said, voice calm, almost amused. You're not the first man who thought he won. You won't be the last. Enjoy the little victory, Ethan. I already have everything I need. She raised her glass to the camera. And then, the video cut to a financial dashboard, a live account balance. Over $2.5 million sitting in an offshore account, timestamped just 2 days ago. And just before the video ended, she leaned in close to the camera and whispered, Check your credit score, sweetheart. I didn't sleep after watching that video. How could I? My mind kept replaying her last words. Check your credit score, sweetheart. At 3 a.m., I finally worked up the courage to open the app. And just like that, she'd done it again. My credit score had plummeted by nearly 300 points overnight. Loans I'd never applied for. Credit cards I'd never touched. Accounts opened in my name with balances already maxed out. It wasn't just about the condo or my savings anymore. She'd burned the last bridge I had to any kind of financial future. And somehow, I couldn't stop smiling. Because when someone takes everything from you, there's only one thing left to do. Take it all back. By the next morning, I was operating on nothing but black coffee and pure spite. I knew I couldn't fight this battle the traditional way. She was already 2 steps ahead. But there was one thing Lila didn't account for. I didn't have anything left to lose. And a man with nothing left? That's the most dangerous kind of person you'll ever meet. First, I reached out to every single one of her past victims I'd contacted earlier. Not the ones who quietly walked away. The ones still burning with anger. We formed a group chat. Simple name, Project Clean Slate. And it wasn't just angry men either. Turns out, Lila had stepped on a few powerful toes in her influencer climb. Rival brands she blacklisted, ex-managers she ghosted with unpaid contracts, even a few so-called friends she'd publicly humiliated to boost her own image. They all wanted payback. And I had the perfect plan. Step 1, burn the brand before it could launch. She hadn't officially announced her product line yet, just teased it through that yacht livestream. But the paperwork? The legal filings? They were public record. Using the marketing connections I still had left, we started a campaign that looked organic but hit fast. Anonymous social accounts started leaking insider testimonials about the brand's shady funding. Fake influencers, some of whom were real people burned by Lila, posted about how the upcoming launch was a front for a massive scam. By day 3, her brand's reputation was in the gutter before a single product ever hit the shelves. But that was just the appetizer. Step 2, go after her image. She built her empire on perfection, flawless Instagram shots. Filtered, curated, untouchable. So we did the one thing she couldn't fight. We made her real. Someone from our little group, an ex-employee of hers, still had access to the original, unedited photos and videos from her influencer days. No filters, no Photoshop, no airbrushed lighting. We leaked them. Slowly. Strategically. First on low-traffic forums, then bigger subreddits, then straight to a few gossip blogs that lived for this kind of dirt. And within days, her entire image crumbled. The self-made, powerful, unchained woman? Turned out she'd been using heavy editing, buying followers, even stealing photo concepts from smaller creators and passing them off as her own. And the internet does not forgive a fraud. But the final blow? That required something special. Something personal. I went back to that shared Google Drive, dug through every hidden folder, every forgotten file, and I found it. A scanned copy of a prenup agreement draft. Except, it wasn't between me and her. It was between her and Matthew Crane, my former boss. Dated almost a year before she even met me. They weren't just business partners. They were engaged. And that's when everything made sense. The staged chance meeting at the summit. The way Matthew had always casually asked about my finances. I wasn't a victim of bad luck. I was targeted. Their entire relationship was a con built on creating the perfect villain. Me. Matthew would publicly break off the engagement at the height of the scandal. Lila would play the wounded victim, launch her empowerment brand to massive sympathy sales, and they'd both walk away millionaires. Except this time, the script flipped. I packaged everything. The prenup draft, the timeline of their con, the financial records. And I sent it anonymously. Not to the press this time, but directly to Matthew Crane's wife. Yeah, turns out that little engagement wasn't exactly public knowledge. And the cherry on top? The next day, news broke that Matthew's wife had filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences and financial fraud. Matthew's assets? Frozen. His accounts? Under investigation. And Lila? Gone. Completely off the grid. Until exactly 1 week later, I got a small, unmarked envelope delivered to the motel I was still staying at. No return address. Inside was a single item, a hotel room key, and a handwritten note. Last chance to find out how this really ends. Penthouse suite. Tonight, midnight. And just like that, the game changed. Again. I stood outside the penthouse suite at exactly midnight, that keycard burning a hole in my palm. My heart pounded so hard I swore the whole hallway could hear it. This was it. The final move in whatever twisted game Lila thought she was still playing. And I was ready to flip the entire board. I slid the card through the lock. Beep. Green light. The door swung open to a scene straight out of a movie. Dim lighting. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealing the Chicago skyline. And there she was. Lila. Perched elegantly on the velvet chaise lounge, legs crossed, wearing that same silk dress from the night we first met. She swirled a glass of wine and smiled like nothing in the world had touched her. "Ethan," she purred. "Right on time." I stepped inside but didn't sit. I wasn't here for nostalgia. Cut the crap, Lila. What's this? One last attempt to play the victim? Or are you here to confess before you disappear for good? She chuckled softly, completely unfazed. Oh, honey, confession implies regret, and regret implies failure. I clenched my fists. You lost everything. Matthew's in court. Your brand's dead. You're a walking scandal. What exactly did you win? That's when she stood and walked over to the safe built into the wall. Slowly, deliberately, like she was performing for an audience. She keyed in a code. The door swung open. Inside? Not cash. Not jewelry. A stack of passports. Credit cards. Keys to properties in 3 different countries. My stomach turned to stone. You thought this was my endgame? She said, smiling as she flipped through the passports, each one with a different identity, a different life. This was just Chicago. Chapter 3 in a very long book, sweetheart. I took a step forward. My voice was low, controlled. Not this time. I'm not the same fool who signed those papers, Lila. And neither is the FBI agent waiting downstairs. Her smile froze. Yeah, that was the twist she didn't see coming. Because while she'd been busy taunting me with hotel keys and dramatics, I'd spent the last 48 hours working directly with federal investigators. Turns out, defrauding multiple banks, stealing identities, and laundering money through fake business ventures does eventually catch up to you. Especially when the last victim, you know, me, decides to hand-deliver every piece of evidence tied up with a neat little bow. I pulled out my phone and hit send. Within seconds, there was a loud knock at the door. FBI, open up. Lila's eyes darted toward the exit, but she already knew. There was nowhere left to run. For the first time since I met her, I saw real fear flicker across her face. And I swear, in that moment, every ounce of exhaustion, every night spent wondering how I'd survive, it all lifted. She looked at me one last time, her voice barely a whisper. You have no idea what you've just done. I smiled. No, Lila. You have no idea what it feels like to finally be free. They cuffed her right there, in that silk dress and $1,000 heels, walking her out past a hallway full of federal agents. And me? I took the long way down. Slow. Breathing in every second of my freedom. It's funny. People always talk about revenge like it's a dirty word. But sometimes it's just called justice finally catching up. The lesson I learned? Never confuse beauty with value. And never, ever sign a damn thing without reading it first. Especially when it comes wrapped in a smile that feels too good to be true.